enough to be able to make the time to come on and do the additional trainings with us every Saturday. I also want to thank my mentor, Heriberto, for taking time out of his day. I know he's extremely busy with different businesses that he's involved in, to take time out of his days every Saturday, specifically for all of you guys. So we're going to provide a lot of value. I promise you, we got some really good stuff for you guys today. For everybody who hasn't been on the first 3 training modules, those are recorded. So we can go ahead and just give you those links if you haven't already seen those. It would be really, 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 really important to go through them, study them yourselves, and then send it out to your team as well. So far, we've gone over basically how to prospect, how to invite, how to present. Today we're going to be talking about closing, guys. This is my favorite subject. And or actually not closing, my bad, let me back up a little bit. That's going to be next Saturday. Today we're going to be talking about overcoming objections, which is one of my favorite things to do, because when you overcome objections, all you're doing is just educating people. You're not, telling them, oh, well, you have to do this, like, because, regardless, like, it's never going to be a confrontation. It's a skillful, basically, exchange of words that gets them to realize, you know what, my excuses are petite. Like, there's other people who are having the same problems that I'm having, and they're obviously having results with it, so then I should be able to do the exact same thing. And when we do overcome objections, we get to educate people a lot more on just forex and network marketing. We get to pretty much tell them how the world works. I mean, every time people tell me, oh, is this a pyramid scheme, I just tell them, like, well, isn't everything? Like, I mean, look at the government, right? Like, it looks like a pyramid, right? If you look at schools, it's shaped like a pyramid. You have the superintendent on top, you have the principals, you have the teachers, you have the students. Same with government, same with any business. So all of these different things is what we're going to be talking about. And once people understand that, they just kind of like leave those excuses at the door, and they're like, oh, okay, you're right. Like, I'm just making excuses. Let's go ahead and continue with this. So I want to help you guys be able to transition your prospects into actual customers that are here to stay long term with you guys. Because remember, network marketing, and particularly iMarkets Live, it's not a one-time sale. It's an ongoing sale over and over and over and over and over, because your students are going to be active customers who are going to be purchasing these products on a monthly basis. So you have to be able to build good relationships with people so that they want to work with you, just based off of who you are first and foremost, and also because it makes logical sense to stay in the business. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to pass it over to my mentor, and we got some really good slides that we're going to be pulling up for you guys to take notes with. So grab pen, paper, make sure you have everything ready to just really digest this information. I promise you, overcoming objections is probably the biggest key factor in building your business, because if you can overcome objections, then essentially you're just solving people's problems. And like Grant Cardone says, the distance between you and money is a problem. If you become a professional problem solver because you're overcoming objections for people and helping them and coaching them and mentoring them, then eventually that's going to get you to convert a lot of people, which is going to ultimately get you paid, but also give you the opportunity to help a lot of other people in their financial situation, and also be able to obtain time freedom. So this is a process, and you have to fall in love with the process, because if you don't fall in love with the process, I promise you, you're never going to see the end result. If you're not in love with what you're doing, you're going to hate doing it. And if you hate doing something, you're more than likely going to stop doing it. So this is going to be an enjoyable process, and we're going to role play back and forth a little bit for you guys. But without further ado, Heriberto, the floor is all yours. Thank you so much again for being on this call, and I'm looking forward to it myself.
Here we go. Okay, am I sharing? See my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me go here and here. Well, hi, team. It's a pleasure to be talking to you guys today. We've gone over the cycle. Today we're talking about the most important skill you will learn during the sales cycle. This is the one that every single salesperson, anybody that sells anything, and you need to understand, this is a sale. Anybody that sells anything has problems with this step, and is overcoming objections. So we're gonna talk about principles, and then we're gonna talk about steps of how to. We will discuss some things that can be said as far as specific objections. A lot of people ask me when I'm training, hey, what do you say when people say this? What do you say when people say this? I mean, there's a lot of different things that can be said. And what I like teaching are principles. So then you can figure out your own wording to get around and overcome objections. But first, you need to understand what is an objection and why is there. Understand that the objection is part of the sale. Without an objection, those are very rare that you don't have an objection. Very, very, very rare. And when you don't, I honestly, as a sales guy, those worry me, usually do, because when someone is a complete laydown and has no say, just says, do whatever, let's go, let's do this, those usually, they're rare. Number one, they're rare. And number two, usually tend to be bad prospects or candidates. They're very, very, very rare. In my business, they tend to have really bad credit and just not be good for my business overall. But know that it is part of the cycle. And today we're going to talk about why are they there, and understand that we've already talked about prospecting and qualifying and presenting. And by now, you should have been clear enough with your prospect that they understand what you're pitching and what you're talking about. And we will keep talking about this cycle, because if we're not doing well in one part, it's because the step prior is what we missed. So learning to overcome an objection is a vital part of a sales process. When done properly, this skill can progress a sale and solidify your customer as you reveal to them your knowledge and credibility in IML. It's services and the entire process of getting started. So understand that it is part of the deal. It's part of the process. It's part of the cycle. Understanding this is vital. Need to teach you how to see what an objection is. It is not a no. It's not a no. Instead, an objection is actually an opportunity for you to problem solve and to persuade a person. Persuade them into or to follow what you're saying and follow you along. Understand, if you have not been clear by now, they will probably not have an objection or have the wrong objection or object to different things because they didn't listen to what you had to say. But you need to understand at this point, an objection is not a no. This is why people give up. This is why people stop sales, because they get an objection and they're like, shoot, darn it. And then they give up, they let go. They think that it's going to be just smooth sailing throughout this thing. And I need to make sure you guys understand that a sale without an objection is not a good thing. So understand, expect them and be ready for them and know how to overcome them. Now, when you see them as part of the process and know that all you're doing is problem solving, you become a professional problem solver. You see an objection as a window to the mind of the customer, the questions and revelations that they might have to lead you to present to them in a way that you can sell them. In a sale, a customer's first legitimate objection is the moment the sale actually begins. When a sales guy like me hears an objection, we get excited because we know the person is asking questions and they're listening to what I'm doing and saying. That should get you excited, because that is the first step of the sale moving forward, of the process. You know that they have followed along with you, that you have done your prospecting correctly and qualified correctly, and you present it correctly. So by now, they've listened to you and they have questions. Therefore, you have them along with you. At this point is when you start solving problems. Now is when you start the process. Okay? The whole issue of an objection is learning how to take that no, what they're saying, that objection, and you're turning it into a yes. You're transforming that objection in the sales point to it's a critical part of what you're doing within the sale. So you will not close a sale if you have not resolved a customer's objection. If they're not clear, if you have not been clear enough and you have not delivered your message the right way, you will not close it. So you need to learn the skill. And like I said, I'll go back to it over and over again. It is a skill. And like any skill, you need to practice it. You have to practice it. Okay? First and foremost, objections are good. So once you change that in your head and your paradigm shifts, you understand that an objection is good, you're happy, you see it as a positive. Objections reveal the customer's trust, that a customer trusts you with their concerns and is giving you the opportunity to prove to them that you're a credible source. You never avoid an objection and you do not ignore it. You don't hope they don't come up. You expect them, be ready for them. Remember that in the sales process, it is designed, the way this is designed is to eliminate those objections before they come up. So we're going to talk about that piece too. If you qualified correctly, if you prospected correctly, and you qualified correctly, and you presented correctly, a lot of the objections, and we talked about it last week, in your presentation, if your presentation was good and clear and concise to the point, a lot of objections get taken care of during that presentation. And they're not going to come up. But again, expect them to come up. Because if you did it right, you have eliminated a lot of the objections that usually come up. Now, the other thing that you need to understand when it comes to an objection is knowing that there's a difference. There's 3 different objections or 3 different things that people will throw at you that you need to understand and know them. Know that there's a difference between the 3. And this is where people get caught up. They think they are the same and they're not. Okay? So the first is a smoke screen. A smoke screen, they really don't reflect what the prospect's thoughts or feelings are. They're handed out as a comment just to get rid of you. A smoke screen is an objection, never reveals the true reason why a person is hesitant to move forward, because these comments don't really voice the true concern. It's best just to ignore them, acknowledge them, and go through the process. The best way is to briefly acknowledge it, make a comment, and go through it. Just like a smoke screen is there because it's not a true screen. It's there, and you can walk through it, okay? First, but you need to know you cannot be rude and ignore them like they're being stupid, okay? Because a lot of it today, it comes to a point that you're so good at what you do that you think that everybody knows what you're saying or talking about, and you think you're so awesome that everybody should be as awesome as you, okay? But people don't get it. Now, understand when they give you a smoke screen, most of the time, actually every time, they're trying just to get rid of you. And they'll say some snarky comment just so they can see if they can get rid of you quickly, or they can just throw you off your game. Understand what a smoke screen is and know the difference between a smoke screen and a condition. A condition is a legitimate reason why a person cannot move forward. Anything that prevents a person, a customer, from literally taking advantage of the opportunity that's being given them, and that you will not be able to circumvent it. You cannot get around it. Conditions are there, and you cannot do anything about it. A condition in our business, in particular, in this, really is broke. There's 2 people you can't sell, and those are stupid and broke. We talked about that in the last few times. You cannot sell stupid because they don't know what they think they know more than you, and they refuse to take information. Therefore, you cannot sell them, and you cannot sell broke, and that's a condition. And we'll talk about that too, because really, it can be a condition, and it can also be an objection that you can overcome. Actually, the money piece is the one that can be all 3, depending on the situation and on the person. Sometimes they'll just throw money at you to see if they can get rid of you. But a condition, like a person is sick or they really have like a million jobs or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Like they are legitimately is the legitimate condition that impedes the individual from being able to take advantage of what you're offering. Okay. And the third is an objection. A true objection is something that stands in the way of you qualifying your prospect to move forward with IML. It is your job and responsibility to help your prospect overcome their objection and so they can see the benefits of what you're offering. Every objection has a solution. And the key is finding those solutions the key to finding the solution is very asking the right questions. If you can provide your customer with a solution by using logical elements, you build a trust and credibility in what you're pitching and what you're saying, and then you turn that objection and you'll be more persuasive. Understand, when people throw an objection at you, for them in their head is a condition. Understand, you need to understand there's paradigms here. They're throwing something at you and they'll say something because for them, that objection is a condition. You need to identify what is a condition and what is an objection. When you understand the difference in your head and know that most of the stuff that's going to come at you is an objection, you can then help your customer and your prospect move through the process so you can get them closed. So there's three. Again, let's go back to them. There's a small string, a condition, and an objection. Know the difference. Now, let's go and talk about in any business. If you do anything with sales, anything there is, and Zig Ziglar talked about this. And anybody that does any training knows and says you need to identify the 6 objections that will come up in your business the most or more often. These take the greater majority of your objections, or they can fit within these 6. Are there going to be some other weird ones? Yeah, they're going to be. There is going to be. But these are the ones that you have to be prepared for more often. And if there are others, please bring them up. There's going to be a point that we're going to be talking about them or having questions at the end. But these are the ones that we encountered the most. The top 6 are time, money. I don't have the money. I don't like an MLMs. I've lost money in the market and it's too risky. Is a scam or a pyramid scheme, and I want to see how well you do first in order for me to then move forward. Okay? I know that if you guys have been in the business long enough, or just a little bit, you have heard these ones before. Anything that has to do with a business like this one, you will come across these 6. Now, first thing to overcome an objection is to biff it. You want to bring it up first. Every time when you have an objection that comes up all the time that you know people have the most. So if we know that these 6 are the ones that come up the most in our business, what you should do, or we should do, is have a presentation that covers all of these things in our presentation, which is the step prior to objections. That's why I went over setting up a right presentation last week. So if you watch David's presentation video or any good presentation on IML, you will see that they touch these 6 things throughout their presentation. They talk about them. They bring them up first. They biff them. They cover them because they know that people have these questions. If you can bring it up first, then it doesn't come up, and it shouldn't come up. And then if a person brings it up, they'll feel stupid or dumb for bringing it up because you already covered it. And all you have to do at that point is restate what you just said already, and then move through it. Now, overcoming an objection follows the same steps, and we're going to go over those. Now, you need to learn this acronym, ARAT. You need to follow these steps every single time in order for you to be successful in overcoming objections. So we are going to go over the logic of them and why we cover them in the way we do it, why we do these things, because human nature actually goes against a few of them. So it requires practice. And like I've said before, when it comes to sales, everything in life is a sale. When you become a good salesperson and you know how to overcome objections, you become a better boyfriend, girlfriend, a better dad, a better mom, a better friend, just a better overall. It helps you in dating. It helps you in everything. So understand these things and you will be good in life overall. Okay, so overcoming objections. ARAT, the first step is agree. Why do we agree? The reason why you want to agree is because nobody wants to feel dumb, and they shouldn't be. That's the reason why there's that saying, there's no dumb questions. Nobody wants to feel that they've asked the dumb question or they have a stupid objection. You want to agree with them. Doesn't matter how dumb you think the objection is, you want to agree. Get good at this one. Get good at saying, you know, you're right. I agree with you. You're 100% right. When you agree with the individual, again, this one goes against human nature because you're going to feel that if they're going to come at you, that it's a personal thing, and know that it's not a personal thing. They're just disagreeing with you. Okay. You cannot take it personal. You're going to want to fight. You're going to want to argue. You're going to want to take it personal. Do not. So always agree. Every time, agree with the individual. You know, you're right. I agree with you. I know what you're talking about. At this point is when you probably have heard about the feel, found process, and that's kind of old school way of doing it. But when people, when you feel, found, it's like, I understand how you feel. I know how you feel. I agree. I know how you feel. But other people have found, and that's what we're going to go into. When people know that you have agreed with them, they know that they're not stupid, and the other people have heard it. Now, restating is the next step. Restate is taking what they have said and say it in your own words. When you say it in your own words, you're proving to the individual that you have listened to what they said, and or then maybe they were not clear enough in saying it to you, and you want to make sure that you're answering the right question. When you restate it, you're going to say it in your words, how you heard it. Okay, so whatever is the objection, you want to say, you want to restate it. And so what you're trying to say is, what you said is, what I heard is, what you're telling me is, you want to restate it. So when they know you're listening, they know that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you're using it in that ratio, that you're listening and you're just not just spewing information. Okay, so first you agree, second you restate, the third is anecdote. And for a lot of you, an anecdote is a story. Taking, if you didn't know, anecdote is a story. Anyways, a lot of my guys didn't know what an anecdote was, so I had to put story. So anecdote is telling a story. When you tell a story, it doesn't not have to be your story. It can be somebody else's story. But if it's your story, it's better. But it can be somebody else's story. Okay, what they did, to overcome that objection. So you would say, you know, my friend or our customer or my friend had, or whatever it is, and you want to tell it through somebody else's experience. And know you've heard this before, that facts tell and stories sell. When people hear stories, they know that somebody else went through it and that they're not stupid for asking the question, and that because someone did it, they can overcome it. This is when it becomes tricky, because a lot of people want to make up stories. Know that lies are lies and energies are energies. If you lie in this part, people are going to catch it eventually. Just don't lie. Don't make up stories. So therefore, talk to enough people, educate yourself, and listen to them, and pay attention, and make it your story. tell that story so you can then overcome the objection. And then from there, you transition. Once you tell the story, you want to transition. And the transition is usually a quick question, like, you understand what I mean? Did I answer your question? Did I answer your question correctly? Okay. When you learn to hear objections the right way, you then transition because you see an objection as a question. All that person is telling you when they're objecting is that, you know what, Rico or Chris, at this point, I don't have money. So what do I have to do in order for me to move forward without money? Or I don't have the money, or whatever it is. Listen to an objection as a question. That's why you heard me say, did I answer your question correctly? At that point, you want to transition. If they say, yeah, you got it, or does that make sense? Once they agree and you have answered the question, you move forward. You're done. You don't revisit the process. You don't revisit it because it's done. You close that chapter and then expect another objection to come forward, another one to happen. They're gonna be there, so expect them, okay? So these are the steps. You need to follow these steps in order to overcome those objections, guys. You need to be able to follow these steps. Now, the next step is gonna be, we're gonna go over questions, but I'm gonna pass it up to Chris, because when it comes to this, you have to practice it, guys. Shoot. You have to practice, okay? These come up all the time, all of the time. And you want to, in your presentation, to be good enough for you to clear these before they come up, but you need to be ready with information in order for you to overcome these objections, okay? So I had a long talk with all the big dogs, and Chris and Jordan and Mike about these, and they gave me some of what they do in order for them to overcome and overcome these objections. But we need to now have some bullets in our holster in order for us to shoot and overcome these things. So I'm going to pass it up to Chris, because Chris, if you guys listen to Chris's presentation, and if you listen to David's as well, they go over these in their presentation, but they will come up. So Chris, we had this talk already, so I'm going to pass it on to Chris so we can then cover these, and you guys need to take notes as to the things that you're going to say, because they come up, and we're going to talk about some in detail, and I have another slide for you as well on one of them, but I'll pass it on to Chris. So the floor is yours, Mr. Chris, so you can go over it. I won't stop sharing my screen, so you can take over the mic, sir.
Thank you, Alberto. So guys, all right, let's go ahead and cover these really quickly. Take note of what I'm saying, and if possible, maybe like record it so you don't have to like write it all down, because I'm going to be speaking pretty fast. But the first one, time. This is one that is really important to hit on, because I always talk about, whenever I open up my presentations, I always talk about time freedom. I talk about the reason why I do this, So for me, this is a huge one, because I used to make really good money from sales, but I had no time. Like, I had one day to myself. And in that one day, all I wanted to do was sleep, because I was so tired, so jet lagged. I used to fly 4 times every week. I did that for 3.5 years. And, it wasn't easy, but I did it for the money, like everybody else. Anybody else always has a job because they need the money for the necessities, to pay their bills, to pay their responsibilities, to eat, etc. And I remember giving up all my time, and how enslaved I felt. I felt like I didn't own my own life. I felt like I couldn't control my own decisions. I couldn't get up and go on a vacation if I wanted to. I couldn't, take a week off from work if I wanted to. I couldn't do anything other than what my boss told me to do. If I had to go to work on, Monday early and my flight leaves at certain times, I had to be there, no ands, if, and buts about it, or I didn't get paid what I was getting paid. So I felt like a sellout. And I think anybody who who works in corporate America feels the same way, that they're a sellout. And here's the thing about sales, guys, and I'm gonna like drop this one for you guys. So many people don't like sales, right? Yet you're already selling your time, and not for a lot of money. So I tell people that, like, this is something that can give you the time freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want to. I can't even tell you how many places I've been to in the last 3 years just on a whim. Like, I'm out here in Chicago right now. This is like a decision that I made like last week. Hey, I got to go to Chicago. I'm meeting with some of my teammates out there. Cool. Book flights and I'm out. Like, that time freedom is something I want everybody to be able to experience. But if people don't have time, that's the main reason they need to do this, is because I didn't have time either. So I can resonate with people whenever they tell me this. And it's like, look, I know exactly where you're at, because I was here 3 years ago where I had no time. I had to make the time, because here's the thing. We only have 24 hours in a day. And you have to get really real with people on this one. You have to kind of like use your story or use somebody else's story. Remember, always leverage. Facts tell, stories sell. You don't want to just hit somebody with facts. Facts. This is what you get from IML. This is how it works. This is what's going to get you. Like, that's facts. Okay, cool. But the story is what's going to sell them. The story is going to transition those facts into, now whenever they hear these facts, it makes sense to them because of the delivery, right? So the delivery is always going to be the most important thing. So the time thing, I use my story, and my story usually resonates with a lot of people. And also it gets people to realize, like, if I don't change something, nothing's going to change. So I'm never going to have time. And the same thing goes for money. If you're currently in a position,
Chris, let me interject there on time before we move to money, because this one as well resonates with me. Because on my side, and everybody's going to have their story, when it comes to time and people come at you with the time one, is the one that for me, I'm like, you know what? I have my business. I manage a team of guys. I knock doors. I have my children. I have a life. And people will say, well, I don't have time to do the business, or I don't have time to watch the videos, or whatever it is. And I said, I understand. I know how you feel. I get you. I've been in that. I'm in the same boat as you. But all of us have 24 hours in a day. And what I have chosen to do, what worked for me, what I found is that I do my job, I do my piece, I go through my day, and I have decided to take away time from my Netflix and my Sports Center and some of my sleep. I take that away. And I have committed 2 hours to 3 hours of my day to teach myself and to learn how to do this skill, because it is a skill. And what I'm selling you, this is a skill. What I have learned over the last 3 weeks is that by me doing that, I'm learning, I'm getting better, I'm progressing, but this is something that I have chosen to do in my day. So I've done that with my time, and it might work with you, it might not work for you, but that is for me, because I know that by me doing this, I can then progress and then free up time in the future, because then my money's going to be working for me. You know what I mean? And there I close them. For me, that's the time one. That's my story. And a lot of people, again, you have stories. You need to make sure that you know how to tell them.
Exactly. Yeah, like literally, it's just your story. Your story is going to be the biggest thing to build this business, period. Because where you are right now is not where you're going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, learning this skill set. And you have to understand that it's a process. That's what I'm telling you guys. Like, you have to love the process yourselves, and the people that you're talking to. You also have to use your story, your own progress, your own results, leveraging other people, using their stories, their progress, their results, to let them know that, look, anybody can do this. Like, honestly, I'm here with my brothers, and my little niece asked me, what is it that I do for a living, because I'm always traveling. And she's like, I want a job like that. So guess what?
Now they're just talking about
I'm going to teach her what I do so that she never has a job. So it's generational wealth. Like, doing this, learning this skill set of investing, not even network marketing, even though network marketing is another thing that I'm very passionate about, because it helps people really have residual income. But can everybody hear me? Mike gone quiet. Give me some feedback, guys, if you guys can hear me.
You sound a little bit far away.
Okay.
I can hear you.
I'll speak a little closer to this. Sorry about that. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just move on to the next one. So time, you want to make sure you do this so that you have the time freedom to do whatever you want to. Money, simple. If you don't have $200 right now to drop on an investment like that, then that's the biggest reason why you need to do this, so that that never becomes a problem down the road in the future. If you need something, cool, I got it. Like, I've been trading, I can just withdraw from my profits. I could use my residuals. Like, this will produce the cash flow that you need, so that whenever you find another opportunity down the road, like whenever me and my business partners got the opportunity to get a dealership, money wasn't an issue because we decided to start investing. We decided to start trading money for money instead of time for money. So money is what you'll get out of this at the end of the day. That's why most people do it in the first place, is so that they can have that consistent cash flow. I've had so many people hit me up just this week alone telling me how, they have all these different things going on in life and they don't have money to help solve those problems. And it's like, look, at your age, some of these people, I don't want to like disclose any names or anything like that, but some of these people were, in their late 20s, early 30s, still not being able to have $200 to invest into something like this. Like, that's a problem, like that means that obviously what you're currently doing right now isn't working for you. So you need to do something different so that you can have money all the time. Number 3, don't like MLMs. Here's the thing about MLMs, okay? It's what you've been doing your whole life. And I tell people this all the time. MLMs, network marketing, it's getting paid for something you've always done. If you go to a restaurant and you like the restaurant and the restaurant was really, really good, and lately I've been promoting a lot of restaurants that are vegan because, I decided to go vegan. It's a lifestyle change. It keeps me looking young, keeps me healthy. And I want to live up to like 200 years old. So, that's why I went vegan. But a lot of these vegan restaurants have really good food that people don't know about. And they have the misconception that, vegan food is just salads. Like, it's not. I promise you. I'm opening up a vegan restaurant in January, again, because of the cash flow in my market life. So this is something that is going to allow you to do whatever you really want to do in the long run. But when people say I don't like MLMs, this is the perfect time to educate them. Well, what is your opinion about MLMs? Like, what has been your experience, or why don't you like MLMs? And then they'll tell you, sorry, there was a bee on me. Then they'll tell you, the real objection. Oh, well, I know somebody that got ripped off, or more than likely, they're going to tell you, I signed up for something sometime and nobody helped me. Nobody taught me what to do afterwards, right? But you have to let them know that network marketing is getting paid for referring people to products, services, or ideas like you've always done, right? So these vegan restaurants, and when people go eat at these vegan restaurants, I don't get a check for it. Right? Like, they get healthier and that's it, but I don't get a check for it. If you go watch a movie and the movie was really good, or if the movie was bad, you tell people about it, right? And the movie theaters, they don't pay you if somebody goes and watches a movie because you told them to, because you're the one that sold them. Remember, you're always selling. You sold them on watching this movie. Oh my God, this movie's great. What's it about? Oh, this. You take it away so that they go watch it. If you tell them the whole movie, they're not gonna go watch it. So it's the same thing, right? But you're actually going to get paid when people ask you, hey, how did you learn how to trade? And you're like, oh, well, I learned from iMarkets Live. What's iMarkets Live? This is iMarkets Live. You do a presentation. You explain to them the product, services, how they work, how easy they are to use. And this is why you have to be a product of the product, so that whenever you transition that, like, people see the result in yourself and they're like, oh, wow, this person's actually learning. They actually know what they're talking about. They actually know what they're doing. So this school must be good because that's how they learn. So let me go ahead and sign up for the school. And guess what? You get paid for referring somebody to something like you've always done. It's no different. So whenever people understand that this is just getting paid for something you've always done, which is word of mouth advertising, they're like, huh, I think I can do that. It's not hard. I go on an Uber ride, the Uber driver, anywhere you go, if you sit down with anybody and you talk to them, what's like the first thing that they say? So what do you do? Right? I love when people ask me, so what do you do? Because I'm like, oh, I was like, you really want to know? I was like, you're going to end up doing it if I tell you. And then they're like, what is that? And I'm like, well, I press buttons on my phone and I haven't worked a job in 4 years. And then that just leaves them like, what? Throws them off a little bit, right? I love throwing people off though, because they don't see me coming ever. And then I just pull up my phone. I show them profits. I show them, a little bit of my social media and the lifestyle and the places that I've been and the things that I've done and the teams that I work with. And instantly they're like, I want to be a part of that. So it's really easy whenever you're a walking product of the product, and you've been doing it, you know, for X amount of time. It could be a month, 2 months. I have a girl in Puerto Rico. She signed up 2 weeks ago. She turned $30 into $800. 2 weeks. That's real. I mean, who could use $800 in the next 2 weeks? You know what I'm saying? That might entice somebody to sign up just because of that fact, because of somebody else that did that. So MLMs is honestly getting paid for something you've always been doing. It's no different than any traditional business, except for the fact that there's no overhead. It doesn't cost a lot of money to start one. And anybody can virtually do this, even if they have no friends, because you can meet people everywhere. There's billions of people on this earth. You know, when you say, oh, I don't like recruiting people, or I don't like doing this with other people, like, that means that you haven't been taught how to leverage. Because if you're doing everything off of just your own efforts, you're going to be capped. Okay, we only have 24 hours in a day. You can only work 8 to 10 hours in a day. So if you're only depending on your own efforts, you're capped. Your income's capped. Your possibilities are capped. Your options are capped. Where you can go, what you can do, all of that is capped if you don't leverage. So if you don't like people, if you meet somebody that says, I don't like people, or, you know, I don't like recruiting or any of that stuff, like, educate them on the cash flow quadrant. Oh, well, this is why you should like people, so that you can leverage and make more than just the money you make off of your own efforts. And then might start thinking about it a little bit differently.
Chris,
but, yeah.
Let me interject a little bit on this one as well.
Yeah,
when it comes on the MLM as well, my business, what I do for a living, for me right now, I have done solar, residential solar for the last 5 years, and there's a lot of similarities, because when you present solar to people, there's certain things that they think they know, that they have heard, and has kept people from going solar in certain markets I've worked in. So when I present to them and I come at them and I throw what I do my presentation, when they hear solar, they completely put a wall up, because they think and that they know and they don't. So when I have to overcome this objection, which is kind of the MLM one, the solar one is the same thing. When I have to overcome that one, I repeat it in a way that they hear me saying what they are saying, so they know how stupid it sounds. So I go, so what you're saying is that you've had a bad experience and you went solar at one point, or you did an MLM. Let's do the MLM one. So what you're telling me is that you did an MLM in the past, you used the product, you tried it, and it didn't work for you, and you lost money. You didn't like the product. What is that? What happened? Is that what you're telling me? It's like, yeah, or that's what my friend said, or that's what I've heard. So understand, then when they tell you, you then know what you have in front of you. People, then you know what they have told you, so then you can navigate around it. So you want to know if they had an actual first-hand experience, or their family, or they have heard or read or whatever it is. So you want to first find out what it is, to then know how to overcome it. If you, again, listen to or watch the presentation that I based my thing on last week, if you watch that, what David goes over is that same thing that Chris just said, is understanding how these things work. And understand that what you're pitching them, they don't need it. They don't even have to do the MLM part. All you're doing is, I'm teaching you a skill that you're going to use and is recession-proof from here on, that will make you money. You don't need to build, but you can, but you don't need to. But you build a skill that you will use from here on. So if you like it, great. If you don't like it, that's okay too, but you're going to still learn a skill that you will use from, and you can pass on along, and you can keep using. So if MLM is not for you, it's not your piece of, it doesn't float your boat, then you can go to the next and understand that we're moving forward with a skill. It's a skill set that I'm teaching you. And then you can then make the comparison on, if you go looking for these skills somewhere else, they're going to sell it to you a lot more expensive, but it's not going to be and then you can then build value from the products that you're pitching to then move through this one. And then the person is not stuck on the MLM piece. You can just move through it and just forget it. At that point, you slapped it a few times and you move away.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, it really is just an education experience. Whenever people ask you about what you do, you want to make sure that you never throw up on them, though. People ask you, hey, what do you do? Oh, I trade, and this is all the different markets, and this is like, and start talking about terminology. Like, you're just gonna confuse them. You're gonna like, probably give them a headache. That's what we in sales call throwing up on people. Whenever you just give them too much information, I keep it simple. I press buttons on my phone and I make money. And then people are gonna ask me, how does that work? I promise you, like, it's just psychological. How do you press buttons on your phone and make money? I want to know. And so now I got them on the hook. Now I can invite them to an event. I can take them to a webinar. Now I can, whatever, just to be able to break down more information. You also can't break any information down for people until you have their full attention. Like, have you ever seen in movies or have you ever seen in TV shows, like when people are talking back and forth, or maybe this has happened to you, you're talking to somebody, they're just saying, oh, that's crazy. They're not listening to you, right? We all do that whenever we're not listening to somebody. So you need somebody's undivided attention before you pitch them. It's like whenever in a movie, like there's a dramatic scene and then, they sit down, they're like, okay, you got my attention. That's when you can pitch people. You can't pitch people, just out and about, because they're doing a bunch of different things. You have to bring them to a setting where they're ready to listen to the information that you're going to say. Otherwise, it's just going to go over their head, and you're either going to burn through that contact. You're going to pitch them once and they're not going to understand what you were saying. And then if you go back and try to pitch them again, now you're trying too hard. So yeah, you want to make sure that you just, drop little things to get people's attention, get them on calls. And then once you go through all of that, then you get eventually to this point where the objections pop up. And whenever the objections pop up, like Rico says, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them accordingly. You want to listen with the intent to understand what they're saying, not with the intent to respond. Because a lot of times people are just listening. They're not really listening. They're just waiting until it's their turn. Like, be genuine with people. They will appreciate that a whole lot. Lost money in the markets. Moving on to the next one. Whenever you lose money in the market, right? Because I've met a lot of people too, just out and about, that I mentioned investing or I mentioned trading to them, and they're like, oh, I heard that's too risky, or I lost money in that. And then I always educate them. I'm like, well, I mean, everything in life is a risk. Have you ever dated somebody and it didn't work out? Yeah. Wasn't that a risk? Yeah. Okay. Have you ever left to a new place, traveled somewhere or anything, been somewhere outside of your traditional comfort zone or whatever? That's risky too. Like when I went to Puerto Rico for the first time, that was really risky because I was somewhere I had no idea. The language is completely different. It's not really Spanish. It's like Spanglish, just adjust. While I was knocking doors in Puerto Rico, I got the gun pulled on me 3 times. So that was risky. Everything, But the thing is that trying to get rich from a 40-hour a week job, trying to get rich from that is more risky, because that's never going to happen. Trying to buy a Lamborghini, making $20-$30 an hour, that's risky. That's never going to happen. So I just educate people that everything in life is a risk. I mean, I've been in a relationship back to back multiple times for the last 8 years, and I'm single. So everything is a risk. The thing about this is that this is risk you can control. This is risk that you can determine how much you're willing to lose and how much you want to make. And it's calculated.
And let me interject this one as well. When it comes to this one, just about 2 weeks ago, me and Chris talked to a kid that he's a smart kid, kind of a nerdy kid. And he lost, how much was it, Chris? $30,000 in the market. And again, I said at the beginning, you can't sell stupid or broke. This person, and I've known him for a very, very long time. I was hoping that and I told him before I even talked to Chris, you need to listen and pay attention, because I knew how much money he had lost in the past. But when someone chooses not to take information and not to listen, he's stuck, and he came back at me with it. And you know what? I just move away, because I'm not going to be keep pitching him on this thing, because we overcame it. His thing is that he's stuck on the fact that he lost $30,000 in the market. He will not move forward because he was burnt. It's kind of like a beaten puppy. So again, on this one, yeah, understand that life, this is the way it works. It's the market is the way it goes. We're teaching you. We're teaching you a skill that you will use for the rest of your life. I have now spoken to, and guys, I've educated myself on this, and I've talked to everybody that I know how to do this, that knows how to do this. This is a skill that you use forever. Many of my friends that are wealthy have done this for a very long time. And I mean over 10, 15 years. And they all tell me the same thing. It is risky. It is part of the deal. It's part of the process. So when people come at you with this one, you need to expect the risk. They need to know that it is part of the market. But there's numbers, and Chris was explaining to me, and I'll let him explain it, how the numbers work and how you can mitigate that risk. And we're teaching you that skill so you can mitigate it.
Yes, thank you. So let me give you the example that I give to people. So please write this down. I promise you this will help you overcome that objection every time it pops up. I tell people we use a 1 to 5 risk to reward ratio. So that means that on every trade that we take, we're either going to lose a little bit or make a lot. And then I give them this example. Let's just say, right, this is an example, that every trade that you take, your take profit is either going to make you $50 and your stop loss is going to lose you $10. If you enter 10 trades, okay, 10 trades, you could lose 6 of those trades, 60%. You can lose 6 out of 10 trades and you would have lost $60. The 4 trades that you won made you $200. 200 minus 60, you're up in profit $140 for the day. So yeah, it being too risky, you losing 6 out of 10 trades still makes you a profitable trader. And then once people realize that, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And if it makes sense, then they're gonna go forward with it. So that's honestly how I overcome the risky, factor when people tell me that stuff. Scam, pyramid scheme, I love when people say that. I honestly just never hear this myself, but I know that this pops up a lot, especially for somebody who's a little bit newer maybe in the industry or who isn't seasoned and kind of already set it up so that doesn't pop up. But the whole, this is a pyramid scheme. Let's compare this to everything else, right? I love to use logic to get people to understand that what they're saying is really just uneducated. And once they feel like what they said sounded really uneducated, the ball's in your court now, because somebody who, took a stab at their ego, they're not going to keep arguing with you once you prove them that everything essentially is a pyramid. Like sometimes, I've gotten to the point one time that I got a piece of paper. Whenever I heard this one time that somebody said this is a pyramid scheme, I got a piece of paper and I started just drawing. Like I didn't draw any shapes or anything like that, but I just drew the government, right? Like president, then you got, all the branches of government, etc. I drew school, I just put, superintendent, principals, teachers, students, corporate America, CEO, board of directors, you got supervisors, managers, and employees. And then I just gave the paper to the person and I said, if you were to draw a shape around all of those organizations, what would it look like? And I just stayed quiet. And they realized what I said sounded stupid. So they're like, okay. And then it just never popped up again because they realized everything looks like a pyramid. So the whole pyramid thing is another form of just educating them, because once you realize that everything is kind of a pyramid, you're going to like pyramids. I love pyramids. I actually want a pyramid shaped building. I want a huge building that looks like a pyramid. But, I just think that it's just a lack of education when people say that stuff. So
this one is the most uneducated one you're going to get, by the way. It is. And this, it sounds harsh, but it really is the stupidest one you will get. Because when people bring this one out and they say, oh, it's a pyramid scheme, it is a lack of understanding of how the United States laws work. So if you're looking at your screen, I posted it. It's from last week. I think it was Matthew who posted this, but I used it for this presentation. Understanding how these things work and where the money is and the difference between the two is knowing how to overcome this one. But really, you cannot dive. And we're giving you this information because I don't want you to dive into this stuff. Do not dive into into this because it'll put you in a foxhole that you don't want to be in. But know and be educated yourself, so then you can talk about these points in a really concise, quick way, so you can then know the difference between the two. If someone really wants to dive in there with you, you're probably not going to be able to get out of it because it just is. They're too lost. They're being too burnt. But they are refusing to listen to you. So just know that if this one comes up, if you can get out of it quickly and know the difference and know where the money is at, and understand that you can then sell them away from, hey, I don't care. You don't need to do them. We don't need to do the MLM part of it. There's money in it too, but then you can sell away from MLM. You can sell away from it. It's like, I don't care if you do MLM. I want to teach you a skill, and with the skill that I have learned that is making me money. And this is what the products that we have and how you can make money and how your money make money for you. So you can then sell away from it as well. Okay. So know that you don't want to dive too much into this one, but you do want to know what the difference is.
Yeah, because you will have some people that are like technical, like, oh, well, no, the person on top makes all the money. But then whenever people say the person on top makes all the money, you can educate them on how you actually have to build 3 things, not just one, to get paid. So it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 people under you, just because you were the first one on top, you're not going to see $1. You're not even platinum 150 if you don't have those 2 other legs. So it's not a pyramid scheme. You have to actually work. And this is what makes it fair for everybody, is the fact that we do have regulation, is the fact that we do have structure, because then it becomes fair game. Everybody has to pull their weight if they want to eat. It's as simple as that. A legit pyramid scheme, because they do exist, is the transfer of money without products or services. If somebody ever says, hey, give me $100 and I'll turn it into 3,000, that's a scheme. If somebody says, hey, we're all going to pitch in, we're going to put money into this pot and we'll rotate the pot, that is a legal or an illegal pyramid scheme. So like, that's actually like, because there's no products or services. So those things, right, that do exist that I've seen, are legit pyramid schemes. The fact that we have products and services, that fact alone means that we're not a pyramid scheme. That there's structure, it's a business, it's a legitimate business. That's why Donald Trump, the president himself, enforces network marketing. He actually appointed Betsy DeVos. Look her up on Google, Wikipedia. She was the wife of the founder of Amway Global, which was the first network marketing company that reached $1 billion in sales. And she's now the head of education for the country. So network marketing is inevitably going to be what everybody ends up doing down the road, because nobody watches billboards, nobody listens to commercials, everybody skips. If you watch YouTube, you skip. You don't sit there and watch a commercial. Nobody watches commercials. So how are companies going to start promoting their products and services? Word of mouth. It's the future. It's literally how it's going to happen, right? Exactly. Everybody has ad blocker. Everybody has Netflix. Everything is on demand now. So companies aren't able to push products and services to you anymore. It has to be done by word of mouth. So that's why inevitably it's going to become something everybody does. And I've seen so many people who swore up and down that they would never do network marketing, now in network marketing companies. Because again, it's the future. Whether it's health and wellness, whether it's a juice, a coffee, a protein shake, a fitness program, trading, water. I mean, there's so many different opportunities that are all word of mouth advertising. So it's just inevitably going to be the future. And when you educate people on that, they'll start to realize, that makes sense. You're right. I should probably hop on now. Lastly, want to see you have success first. This one right here is, I don't get this right now, but I did at one point. And I think anybody who starts gets this at one point, where you go to somebody and they're like, well, how much have you withdrawn? How much money have you made in Forex? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You got to tell them, look, however much I make is not however much you're going to make. Like think of this like the gym. I just signed up for the best gym membership, but are you going to wait until I have a 6-pack for you to join to see if the gym works? No. You got to let them know that this has nothing to do with your own results. It's going to be determined on whatever they work, whatever hours they put in, however much time they study. That's going to be the results that they have. But the fact that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of results around the world from people in second, third, first world countries, lets them realize that if other people can do it, anybody can do it. And if people who don't have even the money to start can do this, because I've actually like talked to people in third world countries, and this is also when I use my my story. You know, whenever like I use this story to overcome all these objections kind of together. But Randy, you know, a guy from the Dominican Republic, young guy, hard worker. He works 15 hours every single day just to make 50 hours a week, or $50 a week. Think about that. Like, you know, we have it way too good here in America. Way too good. Way too good. 15 hours every day, slaving away at his job to earn $50 a week, and he can do this. Come on, you have no excuses. No excuses at all. He sold his bike. He sold 2 pairs of shoes just to come up with $300 to get started. So whenever I tell people that, like, usually all these excuses right here go away, because they realize, holy crap, if there's people willing to do that and I'm not willing to do that, then like there's a problem with me. And then it becomes an easier close for them too. And then I show them the proof. I show them the documentation. I show them him actually selling his bike to come up with the money. And then it's real. And they're like, okay, so you're not just BSing me. Like, cool. You know, like, I believe that. But when people say they have to see your success first, leverage. That's all I can tell you. Just leverage. Okay. Put them on a call with me, because they're not going to tell me that. I promise you. So those are pretty much the 6 most.
And on this one, let me also a little bit on this one as well. Understand where they're coming from with this one. There's a book, it's kind of like a Bible. It should be a Bible to all y'all. It's 7 Habits. If you haven't, you should read 7 Habits. But in 7 Habits, he goes over understanding, seeking to understand first in order to be understood. When you understand where the person is coming with this last one, you then know where they want to go. So usually the greater majority of people, when they come at you with this one, is because they haven't seen it, and they're asking, what the question they're asking is, how, if I haven't done it, how am I going to get to where you're at? Or how can I achieve what you have achieved, or what you are saying that can be achieved? That's the question they're asking. Remember, I told you earlier, you need to see every objection as a question, and you need to go through this process, this step. So when they're coming at you with this one, you need to understand that what they're being taught, and we are being taught, are principles. And principles are truths. And truth is stubborn, meaning that it doesn't change. Because truth is stubborn, and you get that peace when you understand that truth doesn't change, and that always works, no matter what. It always will. Then you can overcome this one easily. Then you can tell them, and you can go over stories like Chris and other people in the market as a whole. You can then talk to this one. So understand, guys, they're coming at you because they don't. With this one is they don't understand. They don't know the compound effect. They don't understand the compound effect piece. You need to know how to present this one, to know where they're coming from you with this one. So then you can tell the story and overcome it. So try to put all your mics on mute, please.
Keep on going.
Know how to transition from this one, so then you can close the next step, which is going to be next week. We're going to go over this one. But guys, practice all these that we just went over. You should have a bunch of notes. Practice how to agree with the person, how to restate what they just told you, telling a story and transitioning from it. Practice it. And or make sure your presentation prior to getting to objections covers all the 6 that we just covered, that we just went over. Your presentation should cover all those. So if you want to make your life a little bit easier on objections, make sure your presentation is solid. So then when you get to objections, it's easier to overcome them. Floor is yours, Mr. Chris, Christian.
Thank you so much again for that. Amazing presentation again. And guys, yeah, we're going to go ahead and leave it off at this for the 4th training module, which is overcoming objections.
And remember that objections are good because people are interested. If people didn't have objections, they wouldn't be interested, and that would be a bad thing. So it's a good problem to have. And the better that you become at overcoming these objections, the better that you'll end up becoming in network marketing, because again, it's just problem solving, right? What are the problems? No money, no time. iMarkets Live is a solution. Once people see that and they see other people winning from this, it's going to be an easy transition. And then people are going to be, okay paying the money. They're going to be okay investing the time because they know that overall it's going to solve a problem. It's going to take them from the left side of the cash flow quadrant, trading time for money with no leverage, over to the right side of the cash flow quadrant where they're leveraging either other people or they're just trading money for money, which is way smarter. It's what the banks do. And I always tell people all the time, because I get this question asked a lot too, why do you teach everybody how to make money? Like, that means that there's not going to be any more money. I'm like, please, the banks make $500 billion a day. There's enough to go around.
Too funny. Too funny.
So thank you guys for hopping on, for tuning on. We're going to have the recording set up for you guys shortly. And
next week is closing. So next week we're going to go over how to close.
Next week is the most important one. I promise you do not want to miss it. So make sure that your teams know. Make sure you send out the link early. Remind your teams, follow up with them so that everybody hops on next Saturday. And I love you all so much. Can't wait to see you.
Are there any questions that we didn't cover? No, I think they're all there. So,
but you guys have an amazing Saturday. Go out there, meet some people, plant some seeds so we can harvest later. Thank you guys.